I've done your test corrections, but before releasing your marks, I want to discuss the answers. I also want to discuss the answer of the homework that I once gave you concerning the image of death in Hamlet, because I believe that Hamlet is it's not only a play about revenge. Hamlet is a play about death. The first question was Hamlet criticizes his own inaction, calling himself a scullion, whore, and drab for doing nothing in respect of his father's death. And I asked you to discuss. What do I mean here? You should discuss his inaction. I also asked you to limit yourself in answering this question, to limit yourself to acts 1 and 2, because I just wanted to be sure that you read your lectures. You've read your lectures, you understand them, and you're not going to go and copy the answer from Google. Of course, because this is an e-exam, and I know that your lectures are in front of you. When I bring a question, I'm not going to bring a question which answer you're going to find directly in one page. So also you'd copy and paste. No, I want you to do some effort to search for the answer. So the answer of this question is Hamlet has an aversion to violence. So because he is not acting, so what's the conflict inside him? So you write Hamlet has an aversion to violence, and he lives by strict Christian principles, but he must avenge his father's honor. Hamlet sees no way to honor his father except by killing Claudius. Doubly impelled by his father's orders and by tradition, Hamlet becomes a prisoner of his obligation for revenge. The play begins with the appearance of a ghost, an apparition, possibly a hallucination. Thus, from the beginning, Shakespeare presents the air of uncertainty, of the unnatural, which derives the action of the play and develops in the protagonist as a struggle to clarify what only seems to be absolute and what is actually reality. Absolute. Finally, we've got the play within a play scene where the company of actors provides fodder for Hamlet to use against himself and his tendency to overthink. Contrasting himself with actors who can call up passion and tears out of fictitious motivation, Hamlet condemns his lack of action in avenging his father. The other question, what are the elements of cynical tragedy in Shakespeare? You remember in the introduction I gave you the elements of cynical tragedy. Now in this question I want you to relate them to Shakespeare and especially to Hamlet. And also you should limit yourself to acts 1 and 2 because this is what you've studied so far. And because I don't want you to copy and paste from Google. So the first element, horror, violence, bloodshed. For example, Hamlet regrets not killing Claudius and feeding his inroads to the kites. The second element, villains, corruption, intrigue. We have King Hamlet tells his son that Claudius seduced his seemingly virtuous queen and then crept to where his brother lay napping and poured a lethal poison in King Hamlet's ear. The poison quickly curdled King Hamlet's blood, robbing him of both his life and the opportunity for absolution. Another example, Hamlet's madness is an act of deception to draw attention away from his suspicious activities as he tries to gather evidence against Claudius. The third element is the supernatural, the appearance of the ghost resembling the late King Hamlet. The fourth element, the human motive of revenge, to substitute the religious idea that divine justice and fate would punish those who broke the moral law. We have the ghost tells Hamlet, or telling Hamlet, if thou didst ever the idea of father love to revenge his foul and most unnatural murder. And then we have the division of the play into 5 acts. Hamlet is divided into 5 acts. And the last point, the soliloquy and psychologically morbid characters. We have the soliloquy you mentioned in Act 2, Scene 2, that illustrates Hamlet's continued inability to do anything of consequence. And all of this is written in like just 3 or 4 papers, which constitute your exam. You were too lazy to point them out, even they were in front of you. I'm not satisfied with any of your answers. Finally, we come to the homework, the image of death in Hamlet, which you should follow in the entire play. We have at the beginning the ghost that describes to Hamlet how Claudius killed him. The description itself is an image of death. That swift as quicksilver, it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body, and with a sudden vigour it doth posset and curd like eager droppings into milk the thin and wholesome blood. What happened to the king's body after poisoning him? Then you have the image of death in Hamlet's soliloquy, to be or not to be. Hamlet contemplates if he were to die. He feels that this troubles his heartache would end. Death is still something that he finds appealing, its consummation devoutly to be wished. This is death. Yet even death troubles him, as to die might mean to dream, and he worries about the dreams he might have to endure in that sleep of death that dreams may come, or what dreams may come. And Hamlet refers to death as the dread of something in the undiscovered country, and this shows that he worried about how his soul might be treated in the afterlife. However, it's an undiscovered country. This is an image of death. After killing Polonius, Hamlet tells Claudius the following. Polonius is at convocation of politic worms are eating at him. The worms are eating his dead body. Your worm is your only emperor for diet. You fat all creatures else to fat us. We fat all creatures else to fat us, and we fat ourselves for maggots. Your fat king and your lean beggar is but variable service, 2 dishes was to 1 plate. A man may fish with the worm that hath eaten of a king, and eat of the fish that hath fed on that worm. So what's death? Death may be worm eating the dead body, and then this worm is eaten by a fish. Then a very poor man, he had the fish for his dinner, and the king, the body of the dead person, however, ends in the poor man's bowels. After Polonius' death, his daughter Ophelia sings, at his head a grass-green turf, at his heels a stone. This string of verse paint a clear image of a dead man. In the gravedigger scene, while digging Ophelia's grave, the first gravedigger sings to himself and throws up skulls, images of death. Death is nothing more, here another concept of death. Death is nothing more than a day's work for the gravediggers. It is dirt and stink and toil, and it waits for every one of us. Then we have when Hamlet sees the skull of Yorick, and he starts asking, "Hey, hung those lips that I have kissed, I know not how oft, where be your gibes now, where your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment?" And the very final words that Hamlet uttered in the play, "the rest is silence." So the